Let's be honest for a second. Whenever we hear about billionaires or CEOs getting exposed for something shady, there's always that moment where we think, yeah, I'm not even surprised, and that reaction alone says a lot. Because most of us don't live anywhere near that level of power. We don't know what it's like to have billions in the bank, to move markets with a sentence, to have politicians return your calls. So when scandals happen, whether it's corporate fraud, exploitation, or something as disturbing as the Jeffrey Epstein case, it forces us to confront a really uncomfortable question. What actually happens when someone becomes that powerful? And more importantly, what changes inside a person when there's almost no one left who can tell them no? Now first, let's separate fantasy from reality. Not every billionaire is secretly running some criminal empire. The internet loves that narrative. It's dramatic, it's cinematic, it feels satisfying. But the real dark side of power, it's usually quieter than that. It's structural, it's psychological, it's human. Let me explain. Think about your own workplace. Have you ever noticed how different the rules feel depending on your position? If you show up late too many times, problem. If leadership makes a bad decision that costs millions. Strategic miscalculation. Regular employees get performance reviews. Executives get compensation packages. Now stretch that gap wider. Now imagine that gap at the level of billions of dollars. That's where things start to shift. Because extreme wealth doesn't just buy comfort, it buys insulation. Insulation from consequences, insulation from criticism, insulation from normal social friction. If you're a billionaire CEO, your environment changes. People laugh harder at your jokes. They hesitate to challenge your ideas. They filter bad news before it reaches you. They protect you because their careers depend on proximity to you. And slowly, without you even realizing it, your reality gets edited. You don't hear the full truth anymore. You hear the safe version. And when you don't hear friction, you start believing your own logic more and more. That's not cartoon villain behavior. That's human psychology under distorted conditions. Now let's talk about darker cases. When someone like Jeffrey Epstein was finally exposed, what shocked people wasn't just the crimes. It was the connections, the photos, the names, the access to elite circles. And people thought, how does someone like that operate for so long? The uncomfortable answer: power protects power. Not always through some secret handshake conspiracy, but through reputation, through donations, through elite networks, through legal teams, through settlements. If you're wealthy enough, problems don't disappear. They get delayed, managed, reframed, negotiated. For regular people, one major mistake can end everything. For the ultra-powerful, mistakes often become PR strategy. That imbalance builds resentment, and honestly, it should raise questions. But here's where the conversation gets more nuanced. Most CEOs don't wake up thinking, how can I hurt people today? They wake up thinking about growth targets, investor expectations, quarterly earnings, competition, AI disruption, market share. They're operating inside a system that rewards profit above almost everything else. And in that system, humans can slowly turn into numbers. Reduce headcount, optimize labor, restructure departments. That language matters. Because when people become metrics, cutting thousands of jobs feels like efficiency, not devastation. If you're the one losing your job, it's personal. If you're the one making the cut, it's strategic. Same event. Two completely different emotional realities. And that gap, that emotional distance, is one of the biggest dark sides of power. The higher you rise, the less you directly feel the consequences of your decisions. If a billionaire avoids taxes through complex structures, it's called smart planning. If an average person underreports income, it's called fraud. If a corporation pays a fine for misconduct, it's a line item. If a regular person gets sued, it can ruin their life. Different scales, different outcomes. Same legal system, that's where public trust starts to erode. Now here's something even more uncomfortable. power doesn't just expose who you are, it amplifies it. If someone already has weak boundaries, unlimited access, and no accountability can make that worse. If someone has narcissistic tendencies, fame and wealth can inflate them. If someone believes they're smarter than everyone else, constant praise reinforces that belief. And when you combine ego, isolation, and unlimited resources, you create risk, not always criminal risk, but moral drift. Small compromises, rationalizations. I deserve this. No one will know. It's not that bad. That's how most major ethical failures start. Not with evil laughter, with gradual normalization. And here's the part we rarely talk about. Our culture contributes to this. We glorify billionaires. We treat them like visionaries, like superheroes, like they're operating on some higher level of consciousness. We rarely ask who absorbed the cost of their success. Underpaid workers, aggressive tax strategies, environmental trade-offs, communities displaced. Success stories are clean, supply chains are not. And yet, we keep rewarding scale above all else, so the real dark side isn't just secret scandals. It's a system where winning big means concentrating power. Concentrating power reduces accountability. Reduced accountability increases moral risk. That's the pattern. Now, does that mean every wealthy person is corrupt? No, but it does mean the structure itself is dangerous if left unchecked. Because humans, no matter how intelligent, are still human. We rationalize, we protect ourselves, we adapt to incentives. If the incentive is maximize shareholder value at all costs, don't be surprised when the all costs part becomes real. So maybe the better question isn't, are billionaires evil? Maybe it's, what happens to any human being when there are almost no limits around them? What kind of guardrails exist? Who can challenge them? Who audits them? Who holds them accountable? Who isn't financially dependent on them? Because power without friction doesn't stay neutral. It drifts, and history shows that when it drifts too far, people get hurt. Sometimes financially, sometimes socially, and in extreme cases, criminally. The goal isn't paranoia. It's awareness. It's understanding that extreme power requires extreme accountability, not because we hate success, but because we understand human nature. And at the end of the day, billionaires aren't gods. They're people with amplified influence, amplified reach, amplified consequences. And whenever influence is amplified, so should oversight be. That's the real conversation. Not gossip, not conspiracy. Just a sober look at what happens when money, power, and human psychology collide.